Hello and welcome to Why Wasn't It Better? I am your host, Patrick Darms.
And I'm your co-host, Anton Perez.
Star Trek Generations is a strange transitional entry, the film that brings the original crew and the next-gen crew together, yet somehow ends up being nobody's favorite. Caught between eras, tones, and expectations, it struggles to fully honor either cast while asking the audience to say goodbye and move on at the same time. There are big ideas here about legacy, mortality, and letting go, but they're buried beneath an uneven pacing and baffling creative choices. A movie remembered less for what it is than what it could have been. And here to burn in the fire of time with us is Jay Skipworth of the Film Strip podcast. Jay, welcome back.
Jay.
Hey, Patrick, Anton, thanks so much for bringing me on. I just zipped right across the ribbon to be here. No problem.
You got out of the Nexus okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I just had to pay my tab with Gaia and then I was good, So glad to be here to do this one. We have talked about this one on Film Strip. I've seen this movie many times. I actually saw it in theaters when it came out, and certainly have thoughts because as Star Trek goes, I'm a cinematic Star Trek fan. I watched enough of the shows to know what was going on, but I really watched the movies growing up. And so I relate everything to how these fall as movies and stuff. And this is certainly a doozy.
Doozy is the right word. Before we get further into this, Jay, what's going on with Film Strip? Feel free to plug away. Tell us what you got going on. Where can our listeners find you?
I appreciate that. We are everywhere podcasts are found. Just search for Film Strip Podcast. 450 plus episodes in the can and more coming. We just added a full-time cast member, and our friend Ryan, who's been on some shows with us through the past, but her and Linz go way back, and we just have a lot of fun with her. But myself, Lindsay, Ron, Ryan, and different combos of us and our friends throughout the podcast universe, you guys included, talk about any kind of movies in the world. Sometimes we do theme months. Sometimes we just do what we feel like. So like January and February this year, we did ensemble murder mysteries, and then we did something we called Terrible or Terrific Part 2s, which was a lot of fun. But we've had some good times with that. But then we'll do everything. We've done everything from comedy to musical to documentary to a lot of horror and thriller and sci-fi and anything like that. And my friend Nate and I are still working our way through the Star Trek cinematic universe. We're up through the Star Trek reboot, the J.J. Abrams reboot. So we got a couple more chapters coming here in 2026. But always a fun time, and really appreciate you having me on the show here and let me plug it as well. But again, you can find us everywhere. And then we're on social media at Film Strip Pod. That's where you find all of our announcements and stuff like that. So
love it. Love it. I deliberately did not listen to your episode on this. I didn't know what you wanted to, what you thought of this one.
Good. This will be fun then.
Anton, anything you want to plug? Where can listeners find you?
On this wonderful
right
podcast, Why Wasn't It Better?
All right then. Well, without further ado, Star Trek Generations was released on the 18th of November, 1994 by Paramount Pictures. It was directed by David Carson. The screenplay was written by Ronald D. Moore and Brannon Braga, with a story credit for Rick Berman, who was also one of the producers, starring Patrick Stewart, William Shatner, Malcolm McDowell, Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner and his emotions, LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, James Doohan, Walter Koenig, and Connor Roy, a.k.a. Alan Ruck. The budget was $35 million. That is $75 million adjusted for inflation. The box office was $118 million. That is $254 million adjusted for inflation. It has a rather paltry 47% Rotten Tomatoes score. Who's asking? In the 23rd century, the Starship Enterprise is dispatched to the scene of a giant energy ribbon about to engulf two ships. Captain James Kirk averts calamity but is exposed to the ribbon and presumed dead. 78 years later, the Enterprise's new captain, Jean-Luc Picard, learns that one of the disaster's survivors, a Dr. Soran, plans to enter the ribbon, aka the Nexus, by destroying a neighboring star. Picard must now collaborate with an unlikely ally in order to stop him. The film's tagline is "Two captains, one destiny," Jay, why did you want to talk about Star Trek Generations?
I want to tell you, it was the same reason I went and saw this in theaters when it happened. When I was in high school, actually going into college when this was coming out, I had seen all the Star Trek movies in a theater growing up. Had seen enough of the OG show on reruns, and had watched enough of the Next Generation because I had friends that were really into it to know what was happening. And it was the freaking poster, man. It was that space. You had like the Star Trek emblem as a half moon, and you had Kirk and Picard's faces on it. And I thought, I got to know how are we going to get these things mixed together? Because they are in completely different centuries. They don't even exist on a timeline. But I knew time travel somehow would be involved because this series is lousy with time travel and does all that stuff. And I was most interested in this one because I think you summed it up in your intro when you said this is something that's trying to bring in fans of the old movies that maybe didn't jump on the TNG train, but also to get the TNG people involved again, to say we're going to do the proper handoff from the OG. And none of it really satisfies any of those people. It is the perfect summation of a movie that is trying to please too many people and ends up pleasing no one. And even though I find it watchable and fun, there's so much about this movie that is a what could have been. You know, I mean, it really is the antithesis of your show's title. Why wasn't it better? Why wasn't it better? Because it had too damn much going on at the same time. And that's the problem with this movie.
Anton, a couple things worth noting about this film before you tell us your history with it. It was the first Trek film to be made after the death of Gene Roddenberry. Now, Undiscovered Country had been released after Roddenberry died in late 1991, but of course it was being made while he was still alive. What you were getting into, Jay, this was released about a year after The Next Generation had actually ended. So we had gotten 7 full seasons of that show. So Trek fans had had plenty of time to adjust to Picard and the new crew. And of course, 1994 was also the year of, it was the first or second season of the beloved Deep Space Nine. So in some ways, this may have been the peak of Star Trek.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, think about everything that was going at the time. You know, again, you'd had 7 seasons of a wildly successful show that generally anyone who liked Star Trek loves TNG. And even casuals like me respected it and thought the cast was great, particularly Picard. And you had that. Deep Space Nine was really starting to launch for the Trekkie fans that wanted to have that. You had talks about this prequel series they were going to do, which ultimately became Enterprise. You'd had all the movies, which the 6th one from the OG group had really gone and sent them off well. You know, that was a good send-off movie. It was a lot of fun, even though, in my opinion, it probably should have ended with 4, but that's another day on Donahue. And, you know, you had all of it going at the right time, too. You also had no Star Wars anywhere ever. Like the only thing you were getting were like talk of reduxes of the old movies that they were going to put back in theaters, but there were no
novels
shows
and video games and
yeah,
stuff. That was it.
Yeah, so Star Trek owned the sci-fi landscape for a long time because the Alien franchise was, you know, driving itself into the ground. At that point, Predator had never really gotten out of the jungle worth anything. So there was nothing for fans of this kind of thing to really latch onto. There was no alternative. And what did they do with that great prime spot? They did what Cam Newton did in a Super Bowl. They didn't jump on the ball.
Good analogy. Anton, this is nobody's favorite Trek, but what's your history with it?
All right. So look, I grew up with The Next Generation and all of the reruns on syndication. And so I saw this film on the Sci-Fi Channel. And leading up to it with the previews, like tune in on this specific day to watch, which of course was how I consumed television as a child. It was very exciting to finally have what I'd been reading on internet forums for a long time, this fan fiction of what happened when Captain Kirk meets Captain Picard. And so, of course, I was very excited. Now, all I'll say is, I don't know who wrote, like, as a child, I remember thinking, who wrote this fan fiction? But of course, we know that this is canon to the Star Trek universe. And I do have a really fun little tidbit. It's just, I really do think, like, for me, this is an important film in any kind of mashup between, like, the changing of the guard or, like, different different generations of franchises coming together. I think that is a really momentous thing. So, particularly being a Star Trek fan, I had to get a very rare copy of this film. And so what I have here, I'm a big video game fan, so I actually have a Philips CDI copy of Star Trek Generations, which you need a Philips CDI machine to play. But not only that, but I have it but I'm actually on a quest to get it signed by as many of the cast as I can. So currently I have it signed by Mr. Brent Spiner and
Love it.
Michael Dorn.
Nice.
And I got Data to write "I want McNuggets" on my copy of Star Trek Generations. If you think I'm kidding, you can kind of see it. See McNuggets written right over there. And he knew exactly what I meant when I'd asked him to write. Then it was a call to his voice guest acting on Family Guy. So yeah, I'm a big Star Trek guy. Star Trek: The Next Generation was my shows growing up, and this was an opportunity for me to really nerd out, and I'm excited to revisit it on the show.
Did you like this when you first saw it on TV?
I was disappointed. I think it's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this probably similarly on TV. I'm guessing it would have been the Sci-Fi Channel. I was completely bored by it as a kid, but this isn't a movie for kids. I didn't appreciate Star Trek until later in life. I was very familiar with a lot of Star Trek, but it's when you get to the generation, no pun intended, of like Netflix, and you can actually watch everything in order. Like I saw the Next Gen episodes like randomly here or there, and I enjoyed them, but when you see them like a smattering like that, you're never able to fully appreciate it like you can when you watch it start to finish. So this movie didn't do a whole lot for me, and then I went years without seeing it. And I've never heard anyone talk passionately about this film. Like, think about the way people talk about The Wrath of Khan, The Voyage Home, The Undiscovered Country. Hell, even the motion picture people love. Think about the way people talk about First Contact. Nobody talks about Generations like this.
No, and I think it's because it's trying to live too much in both worlds. And I say that in the fact that Kirk's part in this is relatively small in terms of time. I didn't time it out, watching it this time, but he's in the beginning of it.
15 minutes,
and he's
20
at the
minutes,
end of it.
maybe?
Yeah. But his shadow looms over it. And I get the idea of like, we want to have a cinematic handoff. We've already had the television handoff on these things because they went back and forth with the old cast on the show here and there and all that stuff. But we want to have the big Kirk handing it off to Picard, even though there's 100 and something years of people in between them. Fine, right. We need to have that because those are these mainstay characters. And the problem is, and this is no slight to Patrick Stewart, who's way more of an actor and is a better captain too, in just terms of being a captain and a leader than Kirk was. He doesn't have any of the charisma though. And James T. Kirk, played by William Shatner, is a massive shadow. And when you introduce that shadow in your movie, and you yank it away from everybody, well, everyone, even in the theater, and this is back before trailers gave everything away, so I didn't know what this movie was going to be about. I hadn't found IMDb yet or any of that, so I didn't really know what to expect. And when they kill Kirk the way they do in the opening bit, I thought, how are they going to bring him back? They're obviously going to bring him back because you don't have Kirk cameo in a movie. Like there's no way that, and if they do that, oh God, they're going to have riots, is what I thought. And so you're just waiting for that shadow to come back. And I think it hurts the movie in a lot of ways, because if this was just a Next Generation movie, cut the Kirk part out, you got a good hour and 28-minute, pretty streamlined. I mean, it's an extended episode in a lot of ways, but you got a pretty neat movie and something that the TNG crew would have gotten involved in. And they all kind of get their moment, or at least the big ones do. But when you have the Kirk piece here, it casts this big shadow that you just can't get out from under.
I can't wait to talk about it. We're going to get into the production history of this then. But Anton, we can't ever not talk about now the 6 degrees of Warren Beatty's sex life, which is our theory that every movie can be connected by the sexual conquests of Warren Beatty.
I was trying to I love this new feature, by the way. I've gotten such a kick out of this.
and what is it now dubbed, by the way, Pat?
Well, we haven't officially changed it, but we had a listener named Matthias who suggested that we change the name of this to Warren Beatty's Dick Tracing.
Oh goodness! Every time I hear it, I'm like,
I think it's very
just-
clever.
It is clever.
It has the novelty of being
Yeah.
new.
Yeah.
So this will come as a shock to no one, but we can connect this film to the sex life of Warren Beatty through William Shatner
Mhm.
and an actress named Joan Collins. Joan Collins appeared on an episode of Star Trek, the original series called The City on the Edge of Forever. She famously dated Warren Beatty in the 1960s. So thanks, Bill Shatner. Production history for this film. 1992. Let's go back in time in the fire of 1992. Paramount executives approached the next-gen producer Rick Berman, and they approved a 2-picture deal for the feature films. Ron Moore and Brannon Braga, who were regular writers for the TV series, were tasked with writing the screenplay. There were 3 competing scripts at one point. Maurice Hurley worked on a third. Moore and Braga's script was chosen in May of 1993. Rick Berman felt that having the original cast of the previous Trek films felt like, quote, a good way to pass the baton to the next series. The studio wanted the original cast to only appear in the first minutes and Kirk only recurring at the end of the film. Other requests included a Khan-like antagonist, Klingons, and a humorous data subplot. Yes, the data being the comedic relief in this film was a studio requirement, just in all their infinite wisdom.
Minor requirement. I thought he was like, I can no longer be this thing anymore.
The writers. So I listened to both commentary tracks on this, Anton. The first commentary track is the director and like a Star Trek historian, and the second is the 2 writers. And yeah, they threw Paramount under the bus. They're like, well, this is what the studio wanted.
No, look, it was absolutely what Jack in the Box wanted. They said we need more we need more clips of data with huge emotions that we can throw into our fast food tie-in commercials. So, and that's exactly what they got. Which, by the way, if you've seen them, they're pretty hilarious.
The build quality on them is not great.
That's a side point. Do you miss the days where like major franchises had fast food tie-ins? Like I remember all the Batman ones.
The Batman ones are great.
I do miss it.
Every
really
action movie had one. Like we need that again.
Yeah. Proper tie-ins, right? Like not just like themed bags, but they had full on like pint glasses with Michael Dorn's face on it.
Like Wendy's has like a Wednesday spoon that's supposed to be spooky now for whatever that is, but come on, man. You got to get better stuff.
Yeah. I have here a Star Trek tie.
Oh, wow.
From 1994.
Quite a tie-in.
Yeah, right.
Yes. That's the OG Enterprise too. So
it is.
It's got the gold reflector dish. So.
It is Star Trek Enterprise's 1994, the year this film came out. Just a happy coincidence.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to get it on, but I just wanted to share that with you, fellow Star Trek fans.
Very nice. Very nice.
Back to the production history of this, and this is a bullet that we dodged. At one point, the writers toyed with the idea of pitting the 2 crews against one another.
No.
Yeah, that would have been awful.
Why on earth would you ever do that? Could never work.
No.
That's the same thing that pissed John Voight off. Not John Voight. Pissed off like the original cast of Mission Impossible on the Mission Impossible movie because they made Jim Phelps a bad guy. Spoiler alert. And Tom Cruise told them to go what they could go do with themselves. But that's why none of the OG cast wanted anything to do with that movie. So,
I think we were better off.
I think that worked out in the long run.
Yeah, it worked out in the long run.
Yeah.
After the idea of killing off a next-gen cast member was vetoed, someone suggested that Kirk die instead. Moore recalled, quote, "We wanted to do something different and big," end quote. Leonard Nimoy turned down the chance to direct the feature as he would not have had any influence over the script, and he did not like the script. No surprise. That's why he did not appear in this film. David Carson was hired despite having no feature film experience. He had directed several episodes of the TV series. George Takei refused to return as Sulu. Again, not really surprising.
As with all Trek films, there were budgetary constraints. The initial proposal included location shooting in Hawaii, Idaho, and the Midwest. The film marked the first appearance of the Starship Enterprise B. The ship was a modification of the Excelsior, a model designed and built by Bill George and Effects House Industries Light and Magic for Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, a decade later. The production used sets and props left over from The Next Generation. Other reused sets included the Klingon bridge built for Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, and ribbed plastic walls in the Jeffries tubes, repurposed for the sets of The Hunt for Red October.
I recognize those.
Yeah, I think we definitely saw some Klingon warbird explosions that we've seen. So, yeah. The sailing ship Lady Washington stood in as a holodeck recreation of a sailing ship Enterprise, and the same ship also portrayed the Interceptor in Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. The cast of The Next Generation started filming their scenes for Generations 4 days after wrapping on the show in March 1994, and filming lasted for 51 days. The horse that William Shatner rides is his, as are the house and farm where the sequence takes place. The end of the movie is a reshoot. Kirk originally died after Soren shoots him in the back, which test audiences disliked. So the scene was rewritten and reshot over 2 weeks so that Kirk sacrifices himself by leaping across a broken walkway to retrieve Soren's control pad and decloak the probe. Paramount allowed the film to go over budget to $35 million for the reshoots. Carson described the Nexus Energy ribbon as the true villain of the film. ILM was responsible for conceiving what the ribbon would look like with no natural frame of reference, and Dennis McCarthy was the composer. This was the first film to have a website created to promote it. The site was a success, being viewed millions of times worldwide in the weeks leading to the film's release, at a time when fewer than 1 million Americans had internet access. And that is it for our production history.
As always, we want to thank everyone for listening. If you're liking the pod and you haven't already done so, please follow, please subscribe. Please leave comments wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow us on all the major socials. Best of all, Letterboxd. You can find our full list of films there that we intend to cover. If you really like what we are doing here and you want to throw a few bucks our way, we have a Patreon. You can support the show there and get access to episodes a full week early and ad-free, plus access to bonus content. That's patreon.com/WWIB podcast. Links to everything else are in the description. All right, then. Let's talk why wasn't it better. First reason is the storytelling. Gentlemen, this really does squander the one thing that people wanted to see, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's no way to make that work without a lot of gymnastics to get there. Because, again, they don't exist. It wasn't like Kirk retired and here came Picard. Picard wasn't even born when James Kirk was alive.
Literally almost a century later, right?
Yeah. So, and I always appreciated that about the Next Generation. I thought that was a genius idea of, you know what, we're going to be so far in front of when that existed that we'll just reference it, but we don't feel beholden to all that, even though they still do in some ways, but they didn't feel like they had to bring those people along, and that's, it's a real bum to get there. Like there's a way to do it with, if you want Kirk to be involved. And I think the writer's idea of, hey, let's bring in the old cast and have them do something in the beginning, and then we kill off Kirk, and that becomes the inciting incident. And then all these other things happen, to get there. But Anton, like, you following me? Like you were saying, like, I could see a world where Kirk dies, and then we just go on this adventure, and this ribbon thing is there, and maybe there's, I don't know, even like a data chip or something of Kirk talking about, I had heard of this thing called the Nexus, but we never found it. It was a leftover from the Genesis project, something like that. And then he's gone, and you just let them have the movie at that point, rather than, shoving him back into it, as it were.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you're putting together two timelines. There's an animated film that comes to mind that I think does a really great job of how do you pay respects to the original series versus trying to integrate it with like the new thing that's also very popular. So I know, Pat, you've seen it. Jay, have you ever seen Return of the Joker?
No, I have not.
So it's this fantastic animated Batman film, that one of the best ones. And I think it does this really great job of this balancing act, right? Like, how do you tell the story that doesn't take too much away from the current, from the current show that you're trying to shine a light on, which at the time was Batman Beyond, but at the same time, like, also pay tribute to the original Batman animated series. And in the same way, like, the way to do it, of course, it's like you said, you got to have proper storytelling, you got to have proper writing, it has to make sense. But the way that I feel like it's presented here, it's just so disjointed. And when you really only have the previous cast is just almost cameos as little, fun little nuggets to say hi to in the beginning of the film. I don't think it really ties together as much of a passing of the guard than it is, well, just a shiny, maybe a shiny promotional tie-in for Jack in the Box.
It conceptually never made sense to me.
Mhm.
Even when I saw it as a youngster, I knew that, many, many years, multiple generations, pun intended there, had passed between the two crews. And of course, the trailer sells this as a passing of the torch. But like both of you were saying, with all the years that separate these two crews, these two main characters, other than just to satisfy Star Trek fans, I fail to see the need for the passing of the torch. It feels like it was always going to be some kind of a time travel plot contrivance, right? It was never going to happen naturally. It was never going to happen organically. Now, that being said, this is still a squandering of it because Picard and Kirk teaming up, it should have been far more exciting to watch than what we got.
It would have been like if the internet theory that James Bond is just a moniker and not a person, and you'd have ever had like Moore and Dalton do something together, or Connery and Moore, any of them doing something together. That idea can be neat and can work. And it's also kind of a bummer too, because the old crew went out on such a high note. Undiscovered Country is just a big popcorn movie. It's a lot of fun.
Great point.
It's kind of like Wrath of Khan Part
send-off.
2, which is fine. And it's a perfect send off. They're that one over there, and then they just take off, and you're done with them. And to bring, because that is a really good Shatner performance. Like, he gives a good performance in that movie, and it has a lot to do. Everybody really does, but he really gives a good performance in that movie. Patrick Stewart always brings the A game. Anything he does, it doesn't matter what. If he's in a Muppet movie, he's the best thing in it necessarily. I mean, the guy's just an incredible performer, and the two of them together are just a lot of energy at once, right? And there's moments in this movie where you see it and you're like, oh, that's so cool. And there's so many other moments where you're like, this is so lame.
But as a kid, and I mean, even now, I'm like, I really love those cool moments, right? But I think
the moments,
the moments are cool, but it's a good reminder to me that Hollywood I don't think has figured out this formula properly, because then I'm reminded of another franchise where I got a little bit too overhyped for like two generations meeting, which was Highlander Endgame, which that was
clearly sarcasm.
I was excited. I wanted to see Christopher Lambert and Adrian Paul see the two different Highlanders come together, but that didn't end up well.
I'm glad you did. I was going to think you were going to say something like Days of Future Past or X-Men or something.
No, that's too recent between films.
So Undiscovered Country is my favorite Trek film. It really is a perfect send-off. This film kind of craps on it. Did we really ever need to see Kirk again after the way that film ended?
I'll tell you what I didn't need to see was anybody else from the old crew. When you couldn't get Bones and Spock back, you don't get Chekhov and Scotty in there as window dressing. If you wanted to do it, you just have Kirk come do the send-off for poor Cameron, who's going to wreck his dad's Ferrari again. This time it's a Starship. I mean, that's that you do that, but you don't need anybody else because the other two didn't want to be there for various reasons. George Takei hates everyone, especially William Shatner, and so he wasn't going to do anything with them. And Nimoy didn't want anything to do with it because he wasn't going to direct it and he didn't have any control over it, and he thought it was dumb, right? So he didn't want to do it. So the other two, they should have never asked. I'm sure they were like, sure, and we're happy to do it, but they should have never had them because that cheapens it even more. Because it also undercuts the thing that Kirk has talked about in several movies, the idea that he knew he would never die unless he was totally alone, right? And he kind of does in this movie. It's the first time, it's kind of, but it does sort of snap on that like, I don't know. I didn't need the other people. That's what I'm trying to say. If you want to bring Kirk in and have him do something stupidly heroic, which was sort of his whole life, and he dies for it, well, yeah, about friggin' time. And that would be how that guy would go out. Kirk was not going to go out chopping wood in his backyard. Like, that's not how he was going down.
Well, let's talk about it then. This is the elephant in the room. I've seen this movie a few times over the years. I'm still in disbelief. I cannot believe this is how they chose to end the life of James Tiberius Kirk. He slips on some goddamn scaffolding. It is the most undignified ending for a major beloved IP character I can think of. I can't believe this was written by the same people that wrote all these brilliant Next Gen episodes. It is one of the most baffling movie decisions I have ever seen.
Can I give you an alternative theory to that? Just
You
to
can
follow
try.
it for a minute.
Yeah, let's go, Jay. Let's hear it.
Okay. He's already dead. He died saving the Enterprise, and that explosion kills him. What goes forward through the Nexus is this reanimated projection of him.
Oh, his
Echo?
echo.
That dies. Yeah. So, yeah.
The shadow.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you get. Now, that's a leap, and that's not in the movie. I'm helping it out a lot. But I look at it as Kirk went down doing what he always would do, which is being heroic and somewhat stupid, but also heroic. It's better than the original script where they were going to have Malcolm McDowell's character shoot him in the face. Which thank you, Malcolm, for spoiling that. People thought for years, oh God, he ruined that. We have to reshoot it. I think McDowell read that and was like, this is lame. I'm gonna wreck
Have you
that.
watched it?
Oh, I've seen the scene. Yeah, it's terrible.
I ended
It's
up
even worse
watching
than
it.
the
It's-
scaffolding. But if it helps you at all, think of it as like that's a Kurt, clone reprojection. The real one dies on the Enterprise on that voyage that screws up.
Well, it's better than at least I think it was the third option, which was Kirk dies at the catering table, choking on a rotisserie chicken. So
I can see that as well.
Yeah. But we got what we got, and it was disrespectful on screen.
Every time I watch this movie, I'm still blown away by how idiotic it is. And the fact it's just such a TV episode ending. The whole climax to this where they're just scrambling around on some scaffolding. It just you're like, this is a movie?
It is a little like Magnum PI. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It's got a little TJ Hooker to it. It's not great. So,
okay, now here's another thing I wanted to bring up with the both of you, because this is, again, baffling to me. So on both commentaries, the director's commentary and the writer's commentary, both David Carson and the two writers repeatedly stated that when they first started making this movie, they knew that, quote, Kirk had to die. We had to kill him. We knew that this movie was going to have to end with the death of Kirk. Why?
All I'm going to say is sure. If they're really so intent on doing a big thing, something different, it feels so narrow to just say the only thing to do is just kill off the captain. But yeah.
It's a thing TV writers write themselves into, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but when you write episodic television, you eventually get to a point where you have to kill off a major character or there are no freaking stakes in an ensemble cast. I'm a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, and they knew in that second season when that thing really started humming and they had it going, we got to kill somebody big on this show. And they had the perfect thing of, we'll turn this beloved guy evil and we'll have Buffy kill him. She's got to kill Angel. That was a big deal, And so when you raise the stakes that way, because then, oh shoot, anybody's, a thing. And that goes all the way back to Hitchcock killing Janet Leigh in Psycho. She's the biggest friggin' star in the movie and we're going to kill her 20 minutes into it or 30 minutes into it. And you see so many things that have tried to replicate that through the years. I think it was when they knew that we have to have the old cast there, because clearly Berman was going to push that. Well, fine then. We're going to kill him. And from everything I read, Shatner was on board with that and almost demanded it. Like, well, I'll do it, but you got to kill me. You got to let me die. Like, I can't keep doing this the rest of my life, even though I'll always be known for this. And he's leaned into it, and good on him for that. But he wanted it to go out that way too. And it needs to be something dramatic. So what that does is it creates stakes. The problem is when you undermine those stakes by creating this magical for him to come back, it kills it. Like, there's like, well, what the hell is that for? And I say that as somebody who's a good Buffy fan, and they brought the guy back, but it was different. It changed things, But this is a bad way of doing that. I mean, look how many franchises have done this though, to no effect at all. Like, think about how lame it is the way Han Solo goes out in Force Awakens, and then no one ever talks about it.
What movie? I never heard of that.
I applaud your willingness to ignore those. So, but you see what I mean? Like, if there's a stake, It's a way, if you're going to do something this dramatic, you have to have some way to raise stakes, and death is an easy stakes thing for TV people.
I felt the same amount of hollowness that I did at the end of No Time to Die when I watched my favorite film character of all time, James Bond, die. I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm. And also, why did it take 3.5 hours to get there? But
it really did. I mean, at least this movie was like 90 minutes. But by saying that repeatedly, oh, he had to die. We knew that we had to kill Kirk. They never explained why they needed to kill him. I think you're right, Jay. That's probably how they were thinking. They were trying to solve a problem that didn't exist. Especially when you consider how Undiscovered Country ends. It's a perfect ending for the original crew.
Right. I think you could have had the handoff and never have them in this movie at all. And I'll tell you where it is. You can just have Picard and even Riker, as they were wont to do, talking about like, I remember studying something about this Nexus ribbon, and Data be the one to pull up and go, well, actually, yeah, Captain James T. Kirk and his, crew encountered something like this once upon a time, but they knew enough to stay away from it. Like, you could reference them, and then there's the handoff. It's a knowledge-based handoff. Well, they've been dead for 200 years. Surely we can tackle this better now, and you just go about your way.
You're both being too
You create
logical.
the problem yourself when you're like, no, but Shatner's got to be in the friggin' movie.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
You're being too logical about this, guys. Look, it's the 90s. The studios want movie tie-ins. They know the fans are rabid for this. It's all over the internet forums. The internet's a new thing. And they have to, do what even as a child like I wanted, which was get Captain Kirk and Captain Picard on screen together, even if it doesn't make sense.
I mean, that poster rules. You got to admit that Two-Face poster is awesome.
It does.
Yeah.
And it got me in the theater, and I hadn't paid attention to this in years. I was like, okay, I'm game. How do we do that? Yeah. But it's when you watch it, and then, as we like to do on these shows, right, you start pulling at the yarns and you go, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
It's a shame, because Shatner is amazing in this movie. He really is one of a kind.
Good in it. Yeah.
He's so good in here.
I mean, this is a role that he was born to play. I mean, it's just you find the right actor in the right moment, and then the fact that he got to play it over really 3 different eras is truly amazing. What he's done with it. So
yeah, it's one of the really early on, the moment when he takes back control of the ship during the opening moments of the film, and what is it, Connor Roy finds himself just wondering, like, what do I do, Captain Kirk? Or Captain Kirk, you're my hero.
We're the only ship in range.
Again.
We've never seen that
again
cliche ever.
I mean, I think they're actually winking at the audience with that.
Oh, like, they are.
Which is, it's fine, because that's how you have to do in these things. But you're not wrong, though, Patrick. This is a great Shatner performance, and that's something to say, because stringing those together in the movies wasn't always easy. Like, he's great in the second one. He's actually pretty good in the first one too. I like that movie for what it is. He's great in the second one. He's good in the third one, because and in the fourth one he gets to play kind of fun. But everybody else has so much to do too that it almost pulls away from him. He doesn't have to carry it. The fifth one's got its own problems. He's great in the sixth one though. Him and Bones in particular have the best thing next to what Spock does to Kim Cattrall, which is intense. So that's a cross-examination that some of our legal thriller friends would love to have if they can ever get it. But
for what it's worth, like, his scenes with Picard are great. I love how he starts finishing Picard's sentences when they're in the house and he's making the eggs for his non-existent wife or love interest who is upstairs.
Something's happening there.
Yeah, he has such a spontaneity to him, and it's such a nice contrast to Patrick Stewart, who's just a completely different kind of actor.
It's just a measured guy. And this is after we've seen Stewart go through this emotional turmoil of loss. That's an undercurrent for Picard,
I mean, Stewart, equally impressive here. I mean, the scene where he's telling Troy what happened to his brother and his nephew, it's phenomenal acting.
Well, it's when he, like, in my head, I'm like, that's when the handoff happens. Is now we've had the fun people and kind of the cheesy people, and now we got the real ones. It would be like if a band like Motley Crue in their heyday opened up for the best version of Metallica. Like, you got a band that's really cooking, but they're a little cheesy, you know, and then you get Metallica on the stage and you're like, oh God, these guys can actually play. Like, they're really good and they're super intense. Like, and then you're in a different place. You know?
I'm glad you brought up Motley Crue. I saw them perform back to back with Aerosmith, which was pretty good.
I can imagine that would have been very good.
That was a really fun concert.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They toured together in like 2007.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
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 You know,
but you see
Aerosmith, not the same as Metallica, but I mean, they are awesome live.
Yeah, but you get the point, right? You got kind of the fun one, and then you hand the more serious one that's still really good because the technical proficiency is so much fun to watch. Because Patrick Stewart, again, can just deliver lines and bring you in like as a dramatic performer. He's so good at it.
Yeah, and I think this really just harkens back to these like awesome moments in the film. It's like you really get to see the strengths of each of these actors. These characters really shine through, whether it's Kirk's aloofness but ability to take control when needed. He knows when to bring the gravitas. And I feel like it's because of those moments I can think of this film a bit more fondly, because it has, again, the Kirk that I want to see, and it also has the Picard that is why I love, you know, The Next Generation.
And you also see the difference in the crews too. Like, Kirk had people he trusted around him, but he never really handed off anything of real dire importance to anyone, right? But Riker and Data and LaForce do a lot, you know, and they have important jobs and they're asked to just do their jobs, you know, and Picard lets them, you know, from time to time, and often does. And I've always appreciated that about The Next Generation, the show and the movies that I think First Contact's a great example of that, where you get to see everyone has a job and they get to do it because their captain trusts them, you know, so much.
It's kind of a shame that the Next Gen crew didn't get their own movie just to start with. You know, they start this movie off with this half-assed handoff. We're like, well, we're bringing back some of the original crew.
Yeah.
You don't even see the Next Gen crew until what, like 15, 20 minutes into the movie? That was a mistake, I thought.
Yeah, we're on the boat. We're in the holodeck.
Yeah, you should be giving the Next Gen crew their moment to shine immediately up front to open the film. I mean,
think about if you re-edited it. What if you opened with the holodeck
on the ship,
and then you go to the what's this Nexus thing, and then you again in the data bank, you know, rewrite that Anton and I were doing a bit ago. You flash back to here's how we got here. Well, we told stories in 1994, but
I think it's a better way to do it. I mean,
it feels better. Yeah,
we should have Christopher Nolan direct this. That's what we're saying.
Non-linear. Yeah, I mean, the opening of this movie I think is strange. You get some really interesting cameos from people. Like, it was cool to see Sulu's daughter. There's some actors we know, right? Like Jeanette Goldstein, Glenn Morshower, you know, Aaron Pierce from 24. It was cool to see those faces. I liked seeing Alan Ruck as this inexperienced kind of goofball captain. I did. Although it is kind of funny. You're just like, this guy's a captain and stuff.
It's like Cameron Fry's descendants became a Starfleet captain.
He actually just won a fast food prize to be able to sit in that day.
How weird was it to see the press there? Like, we're hundreds of years in the future and there's like these news reporters.
I don't know if that was necessarily a accurate portrayal of that day.
Somebody was really thinking that media would survive. And someone
Kirk, how did it feel to be back on the Enterprise?
In 1984, I worked for a newspaper, a New York Times regional newspaper at the time. So at the time, even I was under the delusion this might survive. So, I mean, it was a frame of reference for the time. Like, TV cable news had become a thing. The 24-hour news cycle was upon us because, you know, 1994, what's happening, y'all? We're in the OJ saga, you know, so we are inventing that cycle that we now perpetually live in. But, you know, it would have made sense to an audience of the time to be like, oh, yeah, sure, it's just always on.
So we do finally get the Next Gen crew about, 15 minutes, 20 minutes into this film. One of my other issues with this storytelling in this film. Now, obviously, if you were a Trek fan at the time, you had just finished watching The Next Generation. You had 190 whatever episodes of this crew. You knew them well, 7 seasons. If you were a casual moviegoer, maybe you didn't know this crew. Maybe it was your first time seeing them, right? So they're making this movie for kind of, Jay, you've mentioned this a couple times already. They were making this movie for a few different quadrants, if you will.
Yeah.
This was an introductory movie for the next gen crew. And the first thing that they do is they give one of the most popular characters an emotional chip and completely change the character that Trek fans had been watching for 7 seasons of television. Idiotic.
It's different.
I had this same question when we reviewed it on Film Strip, but I want to get y'all's take on it too. I, as again, a casual fan and a cinematic fan, just assumed this was something they did with Data every now and then just to spice it up. But you're telling me no, that this was a new thing that they gave him to do. What a stupid idea then, because it's terrible.
Plus, Anton, what the hell were they thinking?
We clearly know that they didn't know what they were doing, but it's just amazing to think like you introduce to a broad audience this successful team, the successful formula. Fans finally get to see the crew in the big screen. And they change one of the most essential characters of the crew, and that's how they introduce the character again to a broad audience. It's baffling.
Can I just venture a guess? And I don't know this, so tell me if this is on the commentaries or not. I feel like someone in Paramount, maybe Rick Berman, just came and said, "Hey, you remember when we had Spock cussing in the 4th movie? How funny that was? Can we do that with Data too? Because it feels like the same beat, but done much less effective."
They didn't mention why the studio insisted on it. The 2 writers did not appear to be happy with the decision. Just they were told, make Data funny.
Well, see, the difference in Spock being funny is like when you take a logical being, he doesn't stop being logical. It plays for comedic effect because in 1986 it was ridiculous, right?
And there was a real story reason for that because he had just been restored. They basically resurrected him. They had a reason for him being like weird.
Exactly. Yeah, he was weirder than normal. There's no reason why and a hyper efficient artificial intelligence would decide, you know what I really need? Broad comedy. Like
of all the things that he of all the things that's written into the comedy of the film too, it's just so jarring whenever Brent Spiner would go into singing or just the style of comedy. I feel like I really feel like it just felt more of like a caricature of what I would have expected Data to be. And I really, I'm trying to think too. It's just there's a way to have the comedy still come from the straight man of someone trying to develop of someone still maybe getting a grasp of what emotion is. But even then, when I think of Spock and A Voyage Home, the most comedic moments are just him just being weird, but still being the straight man, whether it's or giving, what is it, the Vulcan nerve pinch to
the punk rocker,
the punk rocker on the Muni.
I love that. Again, he's just being Spock in a different place. He's not being a different version of Spock. Whereas this, you take a character again that is well established and you turn him on his head. And something you talked about, Anton, you got this well-oiled machine that is the TNG crew. I'm going to tell you, as somebody who again was only kind of tertiarily aware of how well they functioned as a crew and stuff, I would have thought they were a bunch of idiots. They don't seem to know what they're doing. The first thing
they don't have a lot to do here.
Chip.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if part of it was they looked at all of what had been written for his character throughout the original series, and they've already, I feel like the show had already really, visited those deep conversations of what, humanity, AI, how does Data fit into this, and how does Data like confront humanity knowing that he is an AI. But I think that at least for this film, I will give it credit in still bringing us like a very, very emotional moment of Data and Picard having their conversation and the importance of duty and being able to control emotion. So I think like that was at least one benefit. I just think the lead up to it made absolutely no sense.
I will say, I completely agree with you, Anton. I will say when it comes to Data, I don't like really any of what they did with his character. However, he is in my favorite scene in this film, which is him and Picard in the stellar cartography scene when they are trying to figure out where is the ribbon going to go if this planet explodes. Or, sorry, a star, because that's what Soren's doing, right? He's blowing up a star.
Right, because he's trying to move it back so he can jump back into it.
Yeah, he's trying to reposition the trajectory of the ribbon so that he can jump back into it. I really, really love that scene between Data and Picard where Data starts to break down. He says, I can't do this. You're going to have to find somebody else. And Picard gets really testy with him. He's like, you're an officer aboard this starship, and that's a direct order. And it's my favorite scene in the film. So at least there's that. I love the set design in that scene too. When just that like, it's not 360, but that whole screen around them. Anton, you know what it reminded me of, Anton? Cerebro.
Oh,
X-Men. That's another Patrick Stewart reference for you.
Oh, goodness gracious. But
I just like how it's just a wraparound panoramic screen. It's really cool.
But again, a really cool moment. Cool moment, but the lead up makes no sense. But
it does
cool
not.
Moment.
Well, so I keep talking about the screenwriters and the commentary that they gave. It's one of the most insightful commentaries I've ever listened to on a film. If you are a Star Trek fan and you are nerdy about this stuff like I am, if you have it on Blu-ray, definitely give it a listen because they're really candid and they really talk about stuff like that they were just being really honest.
I'm surprised they let them be that candid on these things, you know? Like that's usually there's some studio control still on it. It's impressive that they do.
It really is. Here's some of the quotes. I couldn't tell who was who. It was either Ron Moore or Brannon Braga, but they're like one and the same for all intents and purposes. Quote, I think our reach exceeded our grasp on this film. I think it's an interesting, provocative theme, but I'm not quite sure that the film brings it home, end quote. And then another one, quote, bringing these two crews together, it was unwieldy, and I don't know that it coheres into anything. It's a little all over the place, end quote. And then both of them agreed at multiple points. Of all the films they had written, this is the one that they wish they had another crack at. They were just not satisfied with the end product. So I give them a lot of credit because it, like you were saying, Jay, like not only first of all, the studio allowed them to say this. There are not a lot of screenwriters who would be this honest with their own work.
I mean, just the fact that they would let them do that is, I find fascinating because generally they don't let you just go off and trash something, particularly something that was really successful. You gave the numbers. This movie made a ton of money.
Yeah, it did well.
But I think part of me wonders sometimes looking at the production, the end product, how much is just laziness of we just need to get the characters from point A to point B. Let people's imaginations get there, and as long as we have these cool moments to tie it together, people will be okay. And I mean, I feel like that's what happened.
Well, Anton, I think that's a perfect segue into our second reason why this wasn't better, which is the villain and his plot. We can talk about laziness. The ribbon. Yeah. Star Trek is a franchise that has some very, very memorable villains. What do we think of Sauron, played by Malcolm McDowell?
It's all right. Yeah,
he's okay.
Like not as diabolical as you'd think.
I love the actor.
Yeah, of course. Not Donald Pleasance.
He's doing a Donald Pleasance impression.
Yeah.
Are you just saying that because he was Dr. Loomis?
Yes, of course.
No, he is hamming it up.
He is hamming it up.
And I don't know that that's necessarily the wrong impetus for this kind of movie, but I feel like Malcolm McDowell read this and somewhere in his trailer said, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible. I was in A Clockwork Orange, but this is a great paycheck, and so therefore I shall prevail." Like,
how much will you pay me?
Yeah, I think he looked at the zeros, or he asked his agent again, like, are you sure? And he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. But he's so villain of the week.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of good actors that have been villains of the week on things like 24 and Buffy and Angel, all these things, these shows. And some of them you're like, okay, yeah, I can get it. I can see it. And some of them you look at them and you go like, what are you doing? And why are you phoning this in to such a specific degree? It's terrible. He's bad in this. He's bad at it. I mean, I know what he's trying to do, but it doesn't work. Not for me.
So, I mean, he was working real hard in the 90s. There was a few films that I had listed down because I remember watching them. he was in Tank Girl, of course.
Yeah.
You see, Malcolm McDowell was also in a film called Cyborg 3, The Recycler. I never got to tune into Cyborg 2. I can only imagine how bad Cyborg 3 was. It was direct to video.
I prefer the fourth one.
Malcolm McDowell, of course, was also in Fist of the North Star, which, again, another terrible adaptation of an anime.
Classic.
So he's a great actor, but I don't think he was very immune to not phoning it in, right?
There's nothing wrong with a Star Trek villain being hammy. We're used to that. In fact, I actually prefer that they are hammy. I'm thinking, obviously,
Ricardo Montalban's hammy as hell.
Right. And
Eric Bana.
I mean, Eric Bana, and then I have to mention Christopher Plummer in the sixth one. He's incredible.
Oh yeah, of
Christopher
course.
Lloyd is super hammy in the third one.
There's nothing. We've seen this. In fact, I would say, if you're going to be a Star Trek villain, you should be hammy.
Be over the top.
I don't think there's anything necessarily bad about McDowell's performance, although I do agree with you, Jay. Like, I don't think he's a very good villain. The thing I can't get past, and maybe this is because of his performance, but I think it's really just a fault of the writing. Despite the fact that he is blowing up stars and planets and killing billions of people, it just feels like hilariously low stakes to me.
Yeah, it's like all that is happening only so he can get back to his beloved family that's gone.
Right.
Like, there's not enough of that to make me care, you know? Like,
not at all.
No, he does have a cool phaser, though. Like the little thing that like rotates. I kind of like that. I'm trying to search for reasons that are positive.
I mean, he like flips it and it rolls over.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's unique.
Yeah, but
he gives us the cool line, "Time is the fire in which we burn."
Cool line.
Yeah. Does he know that Picard's brother and nephew died in a fire? Because he delivers the line to him like he knows, but it doesn't make sense that he would know.
I don't think that you'd necessarily would get omnipotence in his position.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think so either.
Doesn't really play. Yeah. So I mean, I also feel like in a script that's not, is trying to do too much, we don't get enough of. There's not enough time with Soren to really get on his side, if that makes sense, to understand it all. Like the best villains, you get where they're coming from in some way. Like, maybe you don't agree with Khan, but you get why he's pissed off.
Oh yeah,
what happened.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, well, that sucks, bro. But I mean, I kind of get it. Like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like I feel like he's not given enough to do, and there's not enough reason for why he does what he does. Let me say that.
Well, did you know that you could get an even deeper view into Soren's background if you do play Star Trek Generations, the video game, on Windows?
No, I did not know that. That's okay. Interesting.
It's a first-person shooter game that was released in 1997.
So, what is his motivation?
Yeah, what is his motivation?
It's not that you actually don't get that much more depth. I'm just kidding. It's a terrible video game.
I was going to say in the novelization of this film that I own, you also do not get really much in the way of motivation for his character.
And by the way, a first-person shooter Star Trek game is not fun.
No, that's wrong. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that stinks that it's not any good. So.
Picard's plan to foil what Soren is trying to do is he beams down to Viridian. He basically tries to talk him out of doing it.
Yeah.
I'm watching this for like the fifth time the other night. I'm like, where's the away team?
Right.
It's just you with no weapon?
Trying to get to him, climb under some rocks to get to him.
Yeah, he has to climb through this maze of things to get to him. You complain about the bridge he dies on. I complain about the Six Flags Over Georgia stunt show he's got to go through to try to get to him.
It's too much.
It's too much happening.
All right, we have to talk about the Nexus. Pretty lazy plot device.
I mean, but it's a means to an end. Like, if you're going to have to connect these divergent timelines, you got to have something that isn't controllable. I like that element of it. Like, they can't grasp it and put it in a bottle and reuse it
until you're in
it. Yeah.
It's would you call it a magic ribbon?
Yeah, but I mean, it's as magic as everything else in these.
Right.
It's magic is going around the sun backwards to get to Pink Floyd videos in 1986. You know, so.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Man, that's the best part of Voyage Home, which just shows their CGI faces.
Those vibes, by the way, I suggest watch that with some mid Floyd, like just instrumental Floyd going on there with echoes in the background, something. So.
This is the thing that's lazy about it, though. When you want to get out of the Nexus, because getting into it is hard. That's the challenge. But when you want to get out of it, you can get out of it just by thinking about it, and it'll transport you to any time and place you want.
It's just too much of a. It really is just like let's get all your wishes through, and it's like the ultimate plot device. But then also very conveniently, Whoopi Goldberg's been there.
Her echo.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that got me thinking, does everyone else have echoes? Like, is there a Soren echo in there somewhere? Maybe.
They would have to.
If you ask Jay,
Right.
Kirk was the echo.
I mean, I'm just saying, you can read it that way if it makes it go down a little easier for you. So I certainly am not above reading it that way.
Question about Kirk then. If maybe he's not the echo, we can agree maybe that was the real Kirk. So he's been in there like almost 80 years, but he's acting like he just got there. He's like, wait, you're right. This isn't real.
Okay, this is a very Christian way of understanding heaven. I not to get too deep into this, but most Protestant Christians in particular, maybe even Catholics, I don't know, I'm not Catholic, believe that like once you die and you're in heaven or whatever version of heaven you go to, like your understanding of time ends the way that we understand it now. Like, time is passing, but it passes at a much slower rate for you than, there. So it could be hundreds of years and you just feel like you just got there. I felt like that was an interesting thing to throw in when this series in particular, except for part 5, has really tried to stray away from those kind of things. In a lot of ways, I just thought that was different.
That's a really good point. It is weird to me though how he doesn't start to figure anything out till he meets Picard. So was he just reliving the same fantasy over and over? Because he's like, oh, this is the day I met Antonia.
I think he's reliving his happiest moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's the idea, is that you go back to relive the happiest moment of your life.
He just loved horseback riding and making omelets. That was literally his favorite day.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
It's a great day.
I mean, I could go for it. I could go for some omelets right now.
How did we think about Picard's Victorian era family fantasy?
It fits.
Is that the future?
I don't know.
Right? He's from the future.
I don't know. He's from the future, but he wants to live in like a Charles Dickens novel.
You said it, man. I was like, this is very a Tale of Two Cities.
It's very specific.
Christmas Carol. Yeah.
It would be, if it's hundreds of years in the future, it's the equivalent of like the three of us having a fantasy about like Renaissance Italy.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really make sense to me, but whatever. It's just a fantasy. Who cares? Here's the big plot hole though. So the Nexus can take you back anywhere in time, any place in time that you want. And Picard, this genius level intellect of a captain, his best solution is to go back in time 10 minutes to the same place and try to stop Soren.
Isn't that the problem in like any time travel movie? Like Marty McFly should have given himself a lot more than 20 minutes.
It's the same thing. Yes, the same problem. Like just go back in time and arrest Soren before he does any of this.
Right.
But no, we can't do that.
Nope.
He could have gone back in time and saved Kirk to begin with. Nope, doesn't do that. Yep. I don't know if it's a plot hole or it's just lazy. I'm not sure.
I'm going to err on the side of lazy, man. I kind of feel like it's just lazy. So
I also am in the lazy vote here.
It feels very John Carpenter from Halloween 2. I'm drunk. I don't have any other ideas. Fine. He's your brother.
No, I really love Jay's point from earlier in the film of how you can pass a torch across generations without actually having time travel.
Yeah.
And it's points like that where I think about even like moments like this, like how can a decision that Kirk made generations ago like still find its importance and support the crew in trying to solve a mission of today. And I think like even something like this, like if he like uncover, like if he's able to uncover like evidence that helps him in being able to defeat Soren because of something Kirk had done years before, that makes more sense. And that still gives its due to Kirk.
If you feel like you've got to do that, then that was how to have done it.
I hate it because if they really are able to go back anywhere in time that they want, it really does render Kirk's death meaningless. It was very, very preventable, and the fact that he dies stopping this tin pot villain of the week is just so undignified. And then we get the Klingon sisters kind of wedged in.
We can just totally skip over that.
Yeah, let's just
That was unnecessary.
Move
It's part
on.
of the movie that could have been trimmed to make this much smoother.
The whole
It's-
Geordie getting kidnapped thing could have trimmed that out.
Really?
Didn't need
Yep. Did not need that.
at
Nope.
all.
This is a film where the B plots really didn't need to be in the film. Let's talk about the next reason then, the production. The opening credits are brought to us by Dom Perignon.
Pretty fun.
They are, but I have a quibble.
All right, quibble away.
No Chateau Picard? Really?
Yeah.
It's a perfect opportunity.
It was still aging.
Still aging, I guess. I'm only partially being serious. I really love the opening credits. I love the score. Dennis McCarthy's score. You know, as far as Star Trek scores go, it's no Jerry Goldsmith. It is no James Horner, but I do like the score.
Yeah, it's good. I like the score as well. I think it fits right in with them, so it worked. So,
When
at
we
least for me.
actually get the next gen crew, like the intro on the ship, I think is cool. I like all that stuff.
Mhm.
It was nearly cut due to budgetary reasons. I'm really glad that on the commentary, director Dennis Carson said he fought for that to be included, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, that needed to be there. So
Yeah. First time moment too, like quality wise, does look distinctly different from on the TV set for the next generation.
Mhm.
Pretty sweet.
We were mentioning this earlier. I mean, the whole climax with the scaffolding is the most TV ending to a Star Trek movie I think we've ever gotten.
yeah, it doesn't. It's like one of these things is not like the other. You know, it's kind of obvious that it's not too.
It's
So-
not quite as bad as the Karl Marx TV effects at the end of Final Frontier. I don't think
Good
anything
point.
will ever top that in terms of badness, but if you didn't know any better and you hadn't seen this film before and I showed you the clip of Kirk falling off the scaffolding, you would think it was a TV episode.
Or I would think it's just was this like AI generated? Was this a meme? Like it felt like you take it out of context, it's definitely a meme.
His death
No.
scene too, he's like, it was fun.
Yeah, that's just Shatner hammy. They should have never let him. Like I know it's not what you're going to do for a character like that, but Kirk didn't need last words. He had last words. You know, with like the way that he died on the Enterprise saving them, he didn't really get last words there. He didn't need last words on the scaffolding from
He
hell.
just did his job.
He just did his job. He did what he needed to be done to save everybody, which is what he always did. So I like that conceit much more than, again, him, getting his long, prolonged death scene there. So
Rewatching this, I was actually surprised at how well filmed it is. John Alonzo shot this. Anton, he also shot a film called Chinatown back in the day. This is
Pretty
a really
impressive.
well lit film. I have to give him credit. It's
It
definitely a
looks good.
step up from what you would have seen on TV at the time, and it's a really good looking film. The effects in general, they hold up. I'm actually kind of blown away how good the CGI still looks 2 years later.
it actually works. You can tell they put some money in it, instead of half in it, like the way they had done on some previous entries. They let this one have its air, and it does look good. The ship crashing and breaking apart when that happens looks awesome.
Great miniature.
Yeah, so that's a good
Yeah.
mix of effect right there. So
Yeah, I was watching
Yeah.
the making of that on the Blu-ray, and even that crash sequence, it was basically like 3 different miniatures combined. There was like the main one, and when you see it moving towards the camera, it's taking out all the trees. It was a different miniature that was like 6 feet high. So yeah, I mean, you're right. They really put the work in there, and it holds up really well.
that was good.
Yeah, it makes up for the fact of all the recycled shots, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
At least they're good
Which-
recycled shots.
I mean, we're used to it. We're Star
Yeah.
Trek fans.
Yeah.
Like recycled shots are all over the series.
I mean, I get why they had to have the Klingon sisters in there, because you want to give everybody else something to do. Otherwise, it is just the Picard and Kirk show on the planet, and everybody else is just waiting up there to beam people or whatever. Like, they don't have anything to do, but it was kind of lame. I mean, it's not even their best battle. And also,
no.
it undercuts how effective they can be. They look like they don't know what they're doing, which is not
Well,
a good
that's-
look.
I think one of the problems with the plot is like these 2 Klingons take down the entire Enterprise with this like 2-bit bird of prey. It's like, are you
Right.
kidding
No,
me?
thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah,
It's just- no one believes that.
it happens way too easily. I mean, it obviously gives us a very exciting crash sequence, but it gives us, I mean, we get Data saying, "Oh shit,"
Yeah,
which is
it seems to only exist for that moment. I'll be honest with you.
yeah.
And I guess because they were going to hand them off to a new ship, so we got to wreck the old one. I don't know.
Look, if I was in 1994, I could only imagine. I could hear it the moment every nerd exits that movie theater, and I can hear the in unison as they push their glasses up to type in response to how inaccurate that scene was.
Actually,
Exactly.
those torpedoes.
First off,
Anton, the effects supervisor in this film is John Knoll. Do you know who he is?
please regale us, Pat.
Okay, Jay, do you know the name John Knoll?
I know that name, but I'm trying to place where.
Okay.
So is he one of the Star Wars guys? Did he work on some
one of the
stuff?
Star Wars guys. He was one of the effects supervisors on the prequel films. He helped develop the story for Rogue One. He's an ILM legend, but the reason I want to mention John Knoll's name is he, along with his brother, invented Photoshop.
Oh,
Really cool guy.
That is he the one in the Phantom Menace behind the scenes thing that's constantly telling George this is how much this cost?
Yeah, he's the guy with the goatee.
I knew that. Okay,
yes.
I've seen that behind the scenes feature a lot.
We mentioned his name on the when we covered the prequel trilogy.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I think he still works at ILM. He won an Academy Award. He was the effects supervisor on Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Which is some of the all-time best CGI in any film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Just a brilliant guy. I wanted to give him his props here because this is an early ILM credit for him.
Okay.
I think one of the first things he ever worked on was The Abyss.
Okay.
When he was pretty young. And that's the same year I think Photoshop was invented, 1988, 1989, somewhere around there.
Imagine that your side gig is ILM.
Yeah. How wealthy do you think the Photoshop patent has made him?
I cannot even imagine. So,
it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a nerd thing for you. The serious Trek fans know this. So this saucer crash landing on the planet, that is based on a word-for-word recreation of the Starfleet technical manual. Pretty cool.
That works. By the way,
awesome.
per Google, John, along with his brother Thomas, the Knoll brothers, sold the rights to Photoshop to Adobe for $34.5 million in 1995.
Gotta love it.
Okay. So what's that like? That's like 60 adjusted for inflation. It's pretty good.
Yeah. 34 mil just on that one deal. And then he's, still at ILM and he's got all his other stuff. So
Pretty good.
yeah. Wow. So they sold it because they had royalty payments from the 80s, with Adobe, and Adobe just bought them out because it was cheaper in the long run to just buy them out. Wow, that's pretty intense. That's almost the budget of this movie.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good.
Happy for them.
Yeah,
Good
I
work
don't know.
for
I
you
wanted
guys.
to give him a shout. I just like that's
a very interesting note. So,
yeah. It's like
but
that
also,
stuff
I mean,
fascinates me.
he's worked on both major franchises, right? So of sci-fi lore, Star Trek versus Star Wars. So
It's a rarity. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's more people that have done it.
I'm sure that in this day and age, I'm sure there's plenty of them that have, but it's just a neat note for him.
I feel like we've been railing on this film quite a bit. I do want to say it's paced well, and I find it pretty watchable, despite all the story issues.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, again, if you just put it on and you don't if you don't put any real thought to it, you just go with it. It's fine. Like, you don't think about it. It's fine.
Just don't think about it.
Yeah, really. I mean, really. But the minute you do start sort of applying, going like, why is Kirk here? Why are we doing this again? It falls apart. So
To me, it always felt like like a multi-part episode of the original series that was hitting above its weight in terms of like actual production quality.
that's a great, fair way
And
to say it.
when I watch it like that, I have a good time.
Really, you'd watch this again soon?
Yeah, I mean, soon,
Really?
Don't say soon. Don't say soon, Pat.
Okay.
But I mean, look, we've all recognized the moments in this film that are very rewatchable.
It's kind of a YouTube movie for me. It's like I can just watch the scenes on YouTube. I don't need to maybe sit through the whole thing, at least not anytime soon.
Well, should we jump into our last part of the show, which is, did we like it?
I think so, unless, Jay, anything else you want to cover?
No, I feel pretty good about what we've talked about tonight, so I'm good to move into the final
Alrighty.
frontier.
Well, then, as the guest,
Make it so.
make it so. Give us your rating first, if you want. You don't have to go first.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No, that's fine. Everything about it just on surface and as you pick through it and stuff, like in film strip parlance would be a medium popcorn, which is anywhere from 5 to 7, depending on a good day, maybe 4 to 7.
Maybe 6, 7.
How you do? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it could be in there, but there are enough moments, and particularly the moments with Patrick Stewart and William Shatner, where I feel like they both knew what they were in, but they just elevated it. They gave it a lot of gravity that make it fun enough for me to give it more than a watchable pass. Like, I have a good time with it, and if I just put it on and I just go with it and go like, all right, you know what? I accept this movie's premise. I'm just gonna let it have its moment and do its thing. I can have fun with it. So I err more toward the side of 7 than I do 4 in that pile. And I would kind of put it in that range. And it falls in the top half of all the Star Trek films for me. It's unlike any of the others because they don't do anything like this in any of the others, really, except maybe the J.J. Abrams one to some extent. You could say the Spock character does that, but it's a different circumstance. It's fine, and it is fun, and it's also fun to pick apart and realize like what could have been, and realize that if they had made some of the choices they wanted to, it would be tremendously worse. So what we got is somewhat of a miracle that it's as good as it is. So I always appreciate a movie that has a chance to totally screw itself and doesn't, miraculously. So
Letter grade. What would you give it?
it's a good solid B. Yeah, it's just
B.
Just a good B. I think it's a B. Yeah, I think it's a good.
Wow.
B, maybe toward if you want to do pluses and minuses, it's a B minus. If it was out of 100, I'd say 83. It's a B. It's fine.
Okay.
So I think it's a B.
So for me, this film had the challenge of playing to a TV audience who already knew these characters, but it also had to play to the casual moviegoers who had maybe never seen anyone in the original, but the original crew before. I don't really think it does either one proper justice. I think it gets stuck in this halfway house. There's a reason why we agreed at the top of this episode why no one really talks about this film passionately. I think the result was something that looks good but feels like an episode of television. There is very little about the Nexus and our villain Soren that makes sense. There are very little about them that make them interesting. The villain stinks. The plan that he's trying to do stinks. It feels low stakes, but it shouldn't be because he's willing to kill millions of people, but it never lands the impact of it in this film. Instead of honoring the perfect send-off that Kirk had been given in the previous film, it gives him a downright pitiful death on some scaffolding on top of some rocks. It is one of the most baffling movie decisions I have ever seen. It is one of the stupidest storytelling decisions I have ever seen in a movie. I don't think this film is outright bad, but I find Star Trek Generations frustrating because it is incompetent. It had everything that it needed to do, which was the meeting between these two captains, and I don't think it does anything interesting with it. Yes, there are some scenes that are really fun to watch. There are some performances that I think are good to very good. I mean, Picard and Kirk together, yes, it is nice to see them on screen together, but ask yourselves, what is interesting about what they're doing on screen? It's not a terrible film. I find it watchable. It is not a film that I would actively seek out again. It is absolutely something that should have been much better than what it was. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I recognize there are far worse Trek films than this. I give this a C-.
Yeah, as a childhood fan of The Next Generation and having so much deep respect for the original crew, of course there's a bit of disappointment with this film. I'm never going to be satisfied. I'm a big fat nerd. What can I say? But it's also acknowledging the film for what it is. And I think that there's nothing that exemplifies that better than this Jack in the Box tie-in I found while we were recording earlier. And the tie-in, it says you can get your Star Trek Generations movie collector's cup, and it's free when you galaxy size your combo for just 39 cents more. And I want us to always remember that is our North Star here for this film. It is meant to really, again, just sell the merchandise, really just bank on the popularity of both of these series. And with that, I really do lean on, Jay's take on this. It's a miracle that we got what we got. And I also agree with Pat, there is much worse in this. But for me, just these moments where I can, for just a single moment, enjoy the fantasy of what would happen if Captain Picard. And, I find that there are enough moments in this film that makes it a bit more rewatchable for me. I think that while the other moments in the film make it far less rewatchable, as a whole, I don't mind it. I feel like, to me, this probably could have just been a direct to VHS film, but because of the weight of the popularity at the time, of course, it was going to get a feature, direct to theater feature. But we can at least look at it today, and I can look at my copy of it on the CDI and get a chuckle from whatever actor I can get to sign it from now on. But yeah, it's to me just slightly above average. I give it a C+.
Wow, shockingly high from both of you, but I respect it.
I don't like that tone, Pat.
There's nothing.
I respect that it doesn't hit the sweet spot for you, and that's fine, because there's things that my co-hosts and I have talked about before, that we all saw a movie that we more or less went with. We gave it various degrees of grade, on what we liked, and I always think that's fun. When you can watch something and more or less get through it, but you have a different experience with it. So
I'd watch it if it was on. It's a Star Trek movie.
Yeah, and Pat knows I'm just kidding. We always have to have our own views, and
for sure.
Yeah, and just like this film, well, off to the next adventure.
Indeed.
Well, thank goodness it's going to be First Contact, which is a great movie.
I would agree with that.
A real next gen movie. I mean, is it safe to say the only great next gen movie?
I would agree with that statement. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if that's not a hot take at all.
No.
Well, and then, I'm excited. I can revisit whatever McDonald's tie-in they did with that film.
The McDonald's tie-in stuff is interesting to me because these aren't kids' films.
No.
Like, I was a kid in the 90s, in 1996, when I was going to see Space Jam and Twister and Independence Day. I wasn't interested in seeing Star Trek First Contact, and none of my friends were either. It's just like, it's interesting they did a McDonald's tie-in. But they got to try.
Some big long-term Gulf Western Paramount tie-in with the McDonald's Corp there that we are just not remembering.
Some kind of tax break.
It's always something.
Yeah, always something. Well, Jay, it's been a pleasure.
Guys, thank you all. This has been a blast, as always. So really appreciate it.
Some Trek talk.
Indeed.
Yes.
Love
well,
it.
Can't wait till the next episode.
Yes. We need to be back on yours, too.
Yes. We're planning. I'm actually planning that out with our crew as we speak of what we got coming up. So we've done the first one, but if you're down for any of the sequels, I know.
I am. I don't know if that's Pat's cup of tea.
I honestly don't know what it is, but I'll Google it.
It's a thing.
It's
got its fans.
It's got its fans.
It is its own world. But no, guys, I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
It has. Well, that is it for this edition of Why Wasn't It Better? Thanks for listening, and see you next time.